Admiral Park stood in the command center of the massive human space station, watching the screens that showed empty space all around them. A quiet hum of machines filled the air as his crew worked at their stations. Everything seemed normal, until the emergency alarm started blaring. "Admiral, we're getting something strange on all radio channels," called out Lieutenant Min from her position at the communications desk. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel as she tried to make sense of what they were hearing. The sound that came through the speakers was unlike anything they had heard before. It was clearly a voice, but not human. The words were being translated by their computer systems, and what they heard made everyone on the bridge stop what they were doing. "This is Research Vessel Serenity's Dawn calling for immediate help. We are under attack and losing life support. Our shields are failing. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need assistance now." Admiral Park walked closer to the main screen, where Commander Lee was already pulling up star charts and location data. Lee had been with the fleet for 15 years and had never seen her commander look so troubled. "The signal is coming from about 6 hours away at maximum speed," Lee said, pointing to a spot on the holographic map that appeared in front of them. "The ship sending it belongs to the Voltai people. They're scientists, sir. They don't even carry weapons on their ships." Park knew about the Voltai. They were one of the more peaceful alien races in the galaxy. Their bodies looked like they were made of living crystal, and they spent most of their time studying stars and planets. They had never bothered anyone, and as far as he knew, they had never bothered humanity either. "Who's attacking them?" Park asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Krex Raiders, sir. 3 warships. They've surrounded the Voltai ship and are demanding they surrender." Park felt his jaw tighten. The Krex were known bullies who traveled around in their fast attack ships, taking what they wanted from anyone too weak to fight back. They were exactly the kind of aliens that made space dangerous for peaceful species. The problem was that Earth had a strict policy about getting involved in alien conflicts. For 37 years, humanity had stayed out of other species, wars, and disputes. They traded with aliens, talked to them, and sometimes helped with natural disasters. But they never took sides in fights. Park watched the data streaming across the screens. The Voltai ship was badly damaged. Its beautiful curved hull, which normally glowed with soft light, was dark in several places. Its atmosphere was leaking out into space, which meant the aliens inside were slowly running out of air to breathe. The 3 Krex ships circled around the damaged vessel like hungry wolves, around wounded prey. Their sleek, predatory designs were built for one purpose: to hunt and destroy other ships. "Sir, what are your orders?" Commander Lee asked quietly. She knew this was a difficult decision for him. Park looked around at his bridge crew. These were good people who had signed up to protect humanity in human space. They had not signed up to fight alien wars. But as he listened to the desperate voices coming through the radio, speaking words that were translated into pleas for help, he felt something stirring inside him. Maybe it was because he had grown up reading stories about heroes who helped those in need. Maybe it was because his grandfather had told him stories about Earth's old wars, where the good guys were the ones who protected innocent people. Or maybe it was just because he could not stand the thought of listening to these peaceful aliens die while he did nothing. "Prepare Destroyer Thunder and 2 escort frigates for immediate departure," Park ordered, his voice carrying across the bridge like a thunderclap. The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of machines. Everyone knew what this meant. They were about to break 37 years of human policy. They were going to war for aliens they had never met, against an enemy that had done nothing to humanity. But as Park looked at the faces of his crew, he saw something that surprised him. Instead of fear or doubt, he saw determination. These people were ready to fight for what was right, even if it meant risking everything they had built. The stars outside suddenly seemed brighter, as if they were calling humanity to finally take its place among them as protectors of the innocent. Captain Kim felt her stomach drop as the 3 human ships came out of hyperspace and back into normal space. What she saw in front of her was worse than she had imagined from the radio messages. The Voltai research ship looked like it was dying. The alien vessel had once been beautiful. Its hull was made of what looked like living crystal that normally glowed with soft blue and green light. The ship's design was smooth and curved, like a work of art floating through space. But now, huge holes had been blasted through its sides. Bright streams of air and water were shooting out into the empty void of space. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Choi from her position at the sensor station. "They're losing atmosphere. Fast. The aliens inside that ship are going to run out of air to breathe in less than an hour." Kim looked at the tactical display showing the positions of all the ships in the area. 3 Krex warships were slowly circling the damaged vessel, like sharks around a wounded swimmer. The Krex ships were sleek and dangerous looking, with sharp angles and dark metal that seemed to absorb light. They were built for one thing: destroying other ships. "Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from the Krex ships," Choi reported, her fingers moving across her control panel. "They're demanding that the Voltae prepare to be boarded. They want the aliens to surrender completely." Kim studied the situation carefully. On paper, this looked like a fight the humans could not win. The 3 Krex ships were faster than the human vessels, and their weapons were more advanced, according to every military database she had ever seen. Any sane captain would probably turn around and leave, but Kim knew something the Krex did not. Human ships were not built like the elegant vessels that most alien races preferred. While other species designed their ships to be fast and beautiful, humans had learned to build theirs like flying tanks. Every human warship was designed to survive in the most dangerous place in the solar system, the space around Earth. Back home space was filled with deadly radiation from the sun, chunks of metal and rock flying around at incredible speeds, and magnetic storms that could fry electronic equipment in seconds. Any ship that could not handle those conditions would be destroyed before it even left Earth's orbit. The Thunder and her 2 escort ships had thick armor plating that could stop almost anything. Their hulls were built with multiple layers, so even if the outer layer was damaged, the ship could keep fighting. They had backup systems for their backup systems, because in Earth space, a single equipment failure meant death. Kim had trained for years in Earth's military academies, where the survival rate was less than 30%. She had learned to fight in environments that would kill most aliens just by being there. The vacuum of space, deadly radiation, and the constant threat of high-speed debris were just normal working conditions for humans. "Open a communication channel to the lead Krex ship," Kim ordered. Keeping her voice calm and steady, the response came immediately. The face that appeared on the main screen was clearly not human. The Krex commander had reptilian features with yellow eyes and sharp teeth. When he spoke, his voice was filled with arrogance and contempt. "Unknown vessels, you are interfering in Krex business. Leave immediately or be destroyed. This research ship and everything on it now belongs to us." Kim looked at the alien commander and felt something cold settle in her chest. This creature was planning to murder innocent scientists just to steal their research. She thought about the Voltae aliens slowly suffocating in their damaged ship while this bully made demands. "This is Captain Kim of the Terran vessel Thunder," she replied, her voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had survived years of the most brutal military training in human history. "You will cease your attack on that research vessel and withdraw from this area immediately." The Krex commander's laugh sounded like metal scraping against stone.
"Ah, yes.
"Your primitive ships are no match for Krex military technology. Leave now, or we will add your wreckage to the debris field." Kim smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. The Krex had no idea what they were about to face, the holographic image of the Krex. Commander flickered to life above the communication console on the Thunder's bridge. Captain Kim found herself looking into the cold yellow eyes of a creature that resembled a giant lizard walking on 2 legs. His skin was covered in dark green scales, and when he smiled, rows of sharp teeth gleamed under the bridge lights.
Ow.
"The primitive humans think they can interfere with Krex operations," the alien commander said, his voice dripping with contempt. "Your ships look like flying scrap metal. Withdraw now, or we will blast you into atoms and use your wreckage for target practice." Kim felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. It was the same feeling she had experienced during her final combat exam at the Naval Academy, when she had been forced to pilot a damaged fighter through a simulated asteroid field while enemy ships hunted her. The instructors had told her later that only 1 in 50 cadets could maintain that level of composure under extreme pressure. "This is Captain Kim of the Terran destroyer Thunder," she replied, her voice steady and professional. "You are attacking innocent civilians. Cease your assault on the research vessel and leave this area immediately, or we will be forced to take action." The Krex commander threw back his head and laughed, a sound like metal being dragged across concrete. "Your pathetic vessels are centuries behind our technology. Look at them. They are crude, ugly, and slow. Our energy weapons will cut through your primitive armor like a hot knife through butter." What the alien did not understand was that human ships were designed by engineers who had grown up in the most dangerous environment in the solar system. Earth's orbital space was a nightmare of high-speed debris, deadly radiation, and magnetic storms that could cook a person alive. Every human vessel was built to survive conditions that would destroy most alien ships in minutes. The Thunder had armor plating that was 3 feet thick in some places. Her hull was made from alloys that had been tested against direct hits from solar flares. Her internal systems were shielded against radiation levels that would be instantly fatal to most galactic species. "You had your chance," Kim said quietly. "All ships, prepare for combat." The first Krex plasma bolt hit the Thunder's forward armor with a flash of brilliant green light. The energy weapon was designed to superheat metal until it vaporized, creating massive holes in enemy ships. Was the kind of weapon that could destroy most galactic vessels with a single shot. Lieutenant Choi checked her damage control board and looked up with surprise. "Captain, minimal damage to forward armor plating. The plasma barely made a scratch." Kim nodded. She had expected as much. The Thunder's armor had been designed to withstand the constant bombardment of high-energy particles from Earth's sun. A single plasma bolt was nothing compared to what the ship dealt with every day in Earth's orbit. "Return fire," Kim ordered. "All forward guns, solid projectile rounds." The Thunder's main weapons were not energy beams or plasma cannons like most alien ships used. Instead, they fired chunks of dense metal at incredible speeds. The technology was ancient by galactic standards, but humans had perfected it over centuries of warfare. The kinetic slugs left the Thunder's guns at nearly the speed of light. They were simple pieces of tungsten and steel, but they carried the energy of a small nuclear bomb. Most alien ships relied on energy shields that could deflect laser beams and plasma bolts, but they had never been designed to stop solid objects moving at relativistic speeds. The first slug hit the lead Krex warship amidships, punching through its energy shields as if they were not even there. The impact sent shockwaves through the alien vessel's hull, and Kim could see cracks spreading across its sleek surface like a spider web. "Impossible." The Krex commander snarled, his image flickering as his ship's systems began to fail. "Our shields are impenetrable." "Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons," Kim replied calmly. "We use kinetic projectiles. Physics is physics, no matter what galaxy you are from." The second and third human ships opened fire, their guns sending a steady stream of solid projectiles toward the Krex vessels. The alien ships, built for speed and elegance, began to come apart under the brutal pounding of human weapons. The Krex had made a fatal mistake. They had assumed that primitive meant weak. They were about to learn why humans had survived on the most dangerous planet in their solar system. The lights on the Krex warship flickered as another human projectile slammed into its hull. "Commander?" That gripped his command chair as the entire vessel shook like a leaf in a storm. Red warning lights flashed everywhere, and the sound of alarms filled the air. "Damage report," Thex shouted over the noise. His weapons officer, a younger Krex named Vex, stared at his console with wide eyes. "Sir, our molecular cohesion shields are completely useless against their weapons. The human projectiles are passing right through our defenses like they are not even there." They could not believe what he was hearing. The molecular cohesion shields were the most advanced defensive technology in the galaxy. They created an energy field that could stop any known weapon by breaking apart the molecular bonds of incoming attacks. Plasma bolts, laser beams, even particle cannons were all rendered harmless by this technology. "That is impossible," Thex snarled. Our shields can stop anything. These humans are using primitive kinetic weapons. Simple chunks of metal flying through space. How can such crude technology be so effective? The truth was that the Krex shields had been designed to deal with energy-based weapons that could be disrupted or deflected. No one in the galaxy had bothered with solid projectile weapons for thousands of years because they were considered obsolete. Why throw rocks when you could fire beams of pure energy? What the Krex did not understand was that humans had never stopped using kinetic weapons because they worked. A piece of metal moving fast enough could punch through almost anything, regardless of how advanced the target's defenses might be. Meanwhile, on the damaged Veltai research vessel, Dr. Hanvil watched the battle through his ship's sensors with fascination. The Voltai were not warriors, but they were excellent scientists, and what he was seeing defied everything he knew about space combat. The human ships moved through space with a confidence that seemed almost reckless. Most galactic species treated the vacuum of space as a dangerous enemy that had to be carefully managed. Radiation, debris, and the constant threat of system failures made space travel a cautious affair for most civilizations. But the humans acted like space was their natural home. Their ships turned and maneuvered with aggressive precision, taking hits that would have destroyed any Voltai vessel while barely slowing down. "Look at their armor plating," Hanvil said to his research assistant, pointing at the sensor readings. "It is incredibly thick, much heavier than anything we would ever put on a ship." Most species try to make their vessels as light as possible for better speed and fuel efficiency. His assistant, a young Voltai named Silura, studied the data. The human ships are built like fortresses. They have multiple layers of armor, backup systems for their backup systems, and shielding that could protect them from direct exposure to a star's radiation. Hanvil accessed the galactic database and searched for information about Earth, the human homeworld. What he found made him gasp in amazement. "Solara, look at this," he said, his crystalline features glowing with excitement. Earth is classified as a Class 12. Deathworld. It is considered one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy for intelligent life. The classification system rated planets based on how hostile they were to life. Most civilized species came from Class 1 or Class 2 worlds, which were peaceful and stable. A Class 12 rating meant that the planet was so dangerous that most galactic species would die there within hours of landing. "The surface gravity is twice what most species can handle," Hanvil continued reading. "The atmosphere contains dangerous levels of oxygen, which is highly corrosive to most life forms. The planet is bombarded with deadly radiation from its star, and the weather patterns include massive storms that can level entire cities." Solara stared at the data in shock. "How does anything survive on such a world?" "They do not just survive," Hanvil replied, watching as another human projectile tore through a Krex ship's hull. "They thrive. These humans have spent millions of years adapting to the most hostile environment imaginable. Their technology is not crude, it is practical. They build things to last because on their world, anything that breaks means death," as if to prove his point. One of the Krex ships managed to score a direct hit on the human destroyer with its most powerful plasma cannon. The energy blast would have vaporized any ship the Voltai had ever built. The human ship barely seemed to notice. Its thick armor absorbed the attack, and it continued fighting as if nothing had happened. "Incredible," Hanvil whispered. "They have turned their deadly homeworld into their greatest advantage. No wonder they are so effective in combat." The two remaining Krex warships realized they were losing the battle badly. In desperation, their commanders made a decision that would haunt them forever. Instead of retreating or continuing to fight, the human ships, they turned all their weapons toward the helpless Voltai research vessel. "If we cannot have their research, then no one will," snarled the Krex commander, as both ships opened fire with everything they had. "Captain," Kim watched in horror as dozens of plasma bolts streaked toward the already crippled alien ship. Vessel had no shields left and no way to defend itself. In seconds, it would be completely destroyed. Along with all the innocent scientists aboard, Kim did not think about the consequences or the risk to her own crew. She only saw people who needed help, and that was enough. "Emergency maneuvers," she shouted. put us between the Krex ships and the research vessel, all power to forward shields. The Thunder's engines roared to life as the massive human destroyer threw itself into the path of the incoming plasma barrage. The ship's thick armor began to glow red-hot as bolt after bolt of energy struck its hull. Warning lights flashed all over the bridge as systems began to overload from the concentrated fire. "Hull temperature critical," Lieutenant Choi called out, her voice tight with stress. "Forward armor is holding, but we are taking heavy damage." Gritted her teeth as her ship shook under the assault. She could feel the Thunder fighting to stay intact. Its thick, Earth-built armor doing exactly what it had been designed to do. Keep the crew alive, no matter what. "Launch all rescue shuttles immediately," Kim ordered. "Get our people over to that research ship and start emergency repairs. Those aliens are running out of time." In the Thunder shuttle bay, Sergeant O was already suited up in his combat armor and ready to go. The human spacesuits looked like walking tanks compared to the sleek equipment most aliens used. They were bulky, heavy, and built to survive in the most hostile environments imaginable. O had trained for years in these suits, learning to work in the vacuum of space while being bombarded by radiation that would kill most alien species in minutes. To him, this was just another day at the office. "All right, Marines, listen up," O called to his team as they climbed into the rescue shuttle. "We have injured aliens who need our help. Their ship is falling apart, and they do not have long. We go in fast, we work fast, and we get everyone out alive. Questions?" The shuttle launched from the Thunder's bay and flew across the dangerous space between the two ships. Krex plasma bolts were still flying everywhere, but the human pilot navigated through the deadly fire with the kind of skill that only came from years of training. In Earth's debris-filled orbital space, when the shuttle docked with the Voltai ship, O and his Marines stepped into a world of crystal and light that was unlike anything they had ever seen. The alien vessel's corridors were made of what looked like living gemstones that pulsed with soft colors. Everything was curved and organic, as if the ship had been grown rather than built. The Voltai aliens themselves were even more amazing. They stood about 7 feet tall, and their bodies seemed to be made of translucent crystal that reflected light in beautiful patterns. But right now, they were terrified. When the heavily armored humans came stomping through their delicate corridors, the aliens pressed themselves against the walls in fear. To them, these massive figures in their tank-like suits looked like invading monsters. "It is okay," O said through his suit speakers, his voice being translated by the ship's computer systems. "We are here to help. Show us where the damage is worst." The Marines worked with the kind of brutal efficiency that humans were famous for. They used welding torches to seal hull breaches, rerouted power cables around damaged sections, and installed emergency life support systems. Their tools were crude compared to most galactic technology, but they worked. What amazed the Voltai most was how the humans treated the deadly conditions on their ship as if they were nothing. Sections of the vessel were exposed to the vacuum of space, filled with lethal radiation or leaking toxic gases. The Marines worked in these areas without hesitation, their armor protecting them from conditions that would kill most aliens instantly. Within 3 hours, the research vessel was stable enough to travel again. The grateful Voltai scientists watched in amazement as their brutal saviors prepared to return to their own ship. Dr. Hanville had never seen anything like it in his 300 years as a medical researcher. The human sailors who had been brought to his medical bay should have been dead. Yet they were sitting up and talking as if nothing serious had happened to them. The most shocking case was Corporal Nam, human Marine who had taken a direct hit from a Krex plasma weapon during the rescue operation. The energy blast had burned through his armor and left a wound across his chest that would have killed any Voltai instantly. Their crystalline bodies were beautiful but fragile, and even minor injuries could be fatal. But Nam was not only alive. He was laughing with his fellow Marines about how the scar would look when it healed. "Hey, Doc," Nam called out to Hanville, grinning, despite the bandages covering half his torso. "I think this will impress the girls back home. I have always wanted a really cool battle scar." His teammates burst into laughter, and one of them threw a pillow at his head. "You already have 12 scars from training accidents. How many more do you need?" Hanville approached the wounded Marine carefully, his crystalline features glowing. With curiosity, through the translation device, he asked, "How are you still conscious?" "The plasma burn penetrated 3 inches into your chest cavity. Your lung was punctured, and you lost significant amounts of blood." Nam looked down at his bandaged wound and shrugged. "Oh, this. Yeah, it hurts a bit, but I have had worse. Remember that training exercise in the Australian desert? I got bitten by one of those giant spiders and had to walk 20 miles back to base with venom in my system." "That was different," laughed another Marine. "You were delirious for 3 days and kept trying to fight the medical robots." Hunval's mind struggled to process what he was hearing. These humans were talking about injuries and experiences that would be nightmare scenarios for most galactic species, and they were treating them like amusing stories to share with friends. Lieutenant Yoon, who was supervising the medical treatment of her crew, noticed the Valtai scientist's confusion. She walked over and sat down next to Hanval, her presence somehow both comforting and intimidating. "You look puzzled, Doctor," Yoon said through the translator. "Is there something about our medical condition that concerns you?" Her Hanval gestured at the wounded humans around the medical bay. "Your species is remarkable. These injuries would be fatal to any Valtai, yet your people treat them as minor inconveniences. How is this possible?" Yoon smiled, and Hanval noticed that even her expression of kindness seemed to contain a hint of the predator that lurked beneath. "Earth is not a gentle world, Doctor. Our planet has been trying to kill us since the day our species first stood upright." She pointed to Nam, who was now arm wrestling with another Marine despite his injuries. Nam grew up in a place called Korea, where the winters can freeze you solid and the summers can cook you alive. The air pollution in his hometown would be toxic to most aliens, but he breathed it every day for 20 years. Hanval accessed his database about Earth and felt his crystalline body dim with shock. "Your homeworld's atmospheric oxygen content is 21%. That level of oxygen is considered highly corrosive by galactic medical standards." "To you," maybe Yoon replied. "To us, it is what we need to survive. Our bodies process oxygen differently than yours. What would poison you makes us stronger." "Do you?" Valtai scientists continued reading about Earth, and each fact made him more amazed. "It says here that your planet's surface gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. That is nearly twice the galactic standard. How do you even move under such crushing force?" "We do not think of it as crushing," Yoon explained. "That is just normal gravity to us. When we come to other planets with lighter gravity, we feel like we can fly. It gives us a huge advantage in combat situations." Hanval looked around the medical bay with new understanding. These humans were not just tough by accident. They were the products of a world that had subjected them to millions of years of the harshest natural selection in the galaxy. Every human alive was descended from ancestors who had survived conditions that would exterminate most other species. "Your sun bombards your planet with radiation levels that would sterilize most worlds," Hanval continued reading. "Our weather includes storms with winds that can level buildings. Your oceans contain creatures that can kill with a single bite. How does any civilization develop under such conditions?" Yoon's smile grew wider. "We learn to work together, Doctor. When everything on your planet is trying to kill you, you either cooperate with your fellow humans, or you die. We became the apex predators on our world not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we were the smartest, and we took care of each other." Suddenly, Hanval understood why these deadly warriors had risked their lives to save his people. They were not just products of a death world. They were products of a death world that had taught them that survival meant protecting the group, even if it meant sacrificing yourself for strangers. The space around the damaged Valtai research ship suddenly filled with new arrivals as Admiral Park's main battle group dropped out of hyperspace. 12 massive human warships materialized, in perfect formation, their dark hulls bristling with weapons and armor plating that made them look like flying fortresses. But they were not alone. On the opposite side of the battlefield, space twisted and rippled as the Krek's reinforcement fleet arrived. 20 sleek alien warships emerged from hyperspace, their polished hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. The newcomers were larger and more heavily armed than the original Krek's raiders, and their arrival changed the entire situation. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the tactical display that showed both fleets facing each other across the void. His 12 ships were outnumbered, but he had faced worse odds before. What concerned him more was the message he had received from Captain Kim about the Voltai research vessel and its crew of peaceful scientists. The communication channel crackled to life, and the holographic image of a large Krex commander appeared. On the bridge, this alien was different from the raiders they had been fighting. Scales were darker, his eyes colder, and the insignia on his uniform marked him as a high-ranking military officer. "I am General Rexstar of the Krex Third Battle Fleet," the alien announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed without question. "You humans have interfered in official Krex business. The research vessel you are protecting contains scientific data that belongs to the Krex Dominion by right of conquest." Park stepped forward, his own presence commanding despite the fact that he was facing an alien force that outnumbered his fleet nearly 2-1. He had earned his position through 30 years of military service, including campaigns in the asteroid belts where space pirates and hostile environments had claimed the lives of many good officers. General Rexstar Park replied, his voice calm but carrying an undertone of steel that made his own crew stand a little straighter. "I am Admiral Park of the Terran Defense Fleet. The research vessel you are referring to is under our protection. Your forces will withdraw immediately." Krex General's reptilian features twisted into what might have been amusement. "Admiral, you seem to misunderstand the situation. We're offering you a generous opportunity to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. The Voltai vessel contains research into quantum energy manipulation that could revolutionize space travel. Such knowledge cannot be allowed to remain in the hands of weak creatures who lack the strength to properly use it." Park looked at the tactical display showing the 20 Krex ships arranged in an attack formation. Their weapons were already charging, and their shields were at maximum power. These were not raiders looking for easy prey. These were professional military vessels commanded by officers who had spent their careers conquering weaker species. "You are talking about theft, General," Park said, his voice growing colder. "The Voltai are peaceful researchers. They've done nothing to threaten you or your people. What you are proposing is piracy." Rexstar's laugh was like breaking glass. "Piracy, Admiral? You clearly do not understand how the galaxy works. The strong take what they need from the weak. It is the natural order of things. Your species is young and naive. You still believe in outdated concepts like justice and mercy." The Krex General leaned forward, his yellow eyes gleaming with confidence. "I have studied your species since this incident began. You come from what we classify as a death world, which explains your unusual resilience in combat.
Ow.
But resilience will not save you from superior numbers and technology. I am offering you one final chance to withdraw with honor." Park felt something cold settle in his chest as he looked at this alien who spoke so casually about murdering innocent scientists. He thought about the Voltai researchers who had sent out that desperate distress call, and about his own crew, who were ready to fight against impossible odds to protect strangers they had never met. General Rexstar Park said, his voice carrying the quiet intensity that had made him legendary among human military forces throughout the solar system. "Let me make something very clear. We do not negotiate with pirates, regardless of how many ships they bring to the fight. The Voltai are under our protection now." The alien general's features twisted with rage. "You would sacrifice your entire fleet for aliens you barely know, for creatures so weak they cannot even defend themselves." Park's response came without hesitation, and it carried the weight of everything humanity had learned during their long struggle to survive on the most dangerous planet in their solar system. "We protect those who cannot protect themselves, General. It is what we do. It is who we are." The moment General Rexstar cut the communication channel, both fleets opened fire simultaneously. Space erupted into a deadly light show as energy beams, plasma bolts, and kinetic projectiles crossed the void between the opposing forces. What happened next would become the most famous space battle in galactic history. The Krex had expected their superior numbers and advanced energy weapons to quickly overwhelm the human fleet. Their plasma cannons and particle beams had conquered dozens of alien civilizations over the centuries. These weapons could melt through the hulls of most, Galactic ships, like a hot knife through butter, but the human vessels were not like other galactic ships. When the first wave of Krex fire struck Admiral Park's flagship, the energy beams splashed harmlessly against armor plating that had been designed to withstand the direct radiation of Earth's sun. The massive human battleship continued forward. Without even slowing down, direct hit on the flagship, reported the Krex weapons officer aboard Rexstar's command ship. No visible damage, sir. Their armor appears to be absorbing our plasma fire. Rexstar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His most powerful weapons were having no effect on the human ships. It was like trying to destroy a mountain with a flashlight. Meanwhile, on the damaged Valte research vessel, Dr. Hanvil was coordinating with the human fleet in a way that surprised everyone involved. The Valtai were not warriors, but they were brilliant scientists with minds that could process information faster than most military computers. Human fleet. This is Dr. Hanvil. The crystalline alien spoke into his communication system. I am transmitting detailed sensor data on Krex ship vulnerabilities. Their shields are weakest at the junction points between hull sections. The information flowed from the research vessel to the human ships with scientific precision. Dr. Hanvil and his team analyzed the Krex vessels like they were studying specimens in a laboratory, identifying weak points and structural flaws with incredible accuracy. Captain Zhang, commanding the heavy cruiser Indomitable, received the targeting data and smiled grimly. She had grown up in the shipyards above Earth, where her father had built vessels tough enough to survive in the most dangerous space environment in the solar system. All guns, target the junction points on the lead Krex destroyer, Zhang ordered. Fire when ready. The Indomitable's main weapons were not elegant energy beams like the Krex used. They were simple kinetic cannons that fired chunks of dense metal at incredible speeds. Technology was thousands of years old by galactic standards, but humans had perfected it through centuries of warfare. The tungsten slugs struck the Krex destroyer at nearly the speed of light, punching through its energy. Shields as if they were not even there. The alien ship's hull, designed to deflect energy weapons, cracked and split under the brutal impact of solid projectiles. Possible, Rexstar snarled as he watched one of his destroyers break apart under human fire.
How were their primitive
weapons so effective? What the Krex commander did not understand was that human weapons were not primitive, they were practical. While other species had moved toward elegant energy weapons, humans had stuck with kinetic projectiles because they worked. Physics was the same everywhere in the universe, and a piece of metal moving fast enough could punch through any defense. The battle continued with increasing intensity. Krex ships that had conquered entire star systems found themselves helpless against human vessels that absorbed their attacks and returned fire with devastating effectiveness. The sleek alien warships, built for speed and beauty, began to fall apart under the relentless pounding of human weapons, Captain. Zhang watched another Krex cruiser explode under her ship's bombardment and felt a grim satisfaction. Had come here expecting to bully peaceful scientists, but instead they had run into humans who treated warfare as just another form of survival. Target the next ship, Zhang ordered her weapons officer. Let us show these pirates what happens when they threaten innocent people. The human fleet pressed their attack with the same methodical determination that had allowed their species to survive on the most hostile planet in their solar system. They absorbed punishment that would have destroyed any other fleet while systematically dismantling their enemies with weapons that were both ancient and devastatingly effective. In the end, the superior technology and greater numbers of the Krex meant nothing. They had made the fatal mistake of underestimating opponents who had learned to fight in hell itself. When the smoke cleared from the greatest space battle in galactic history, the scene was one of complete devastation for the Krex forces. Of the 20 warships that General Rexstar had brought to crush the human fleet, only 7 were still capable of moving under their own power. The rest floated as twisted wreckage or had been completely vaporized by human weapons. The surviving Krex vessels limped away into hyperspace, their crews traumatized by what they had witnessed. These were professional soldiers who had conquered entire star systems, but they had never faced an enemy that simply refused to die. The human ships had absorbed damage that should have destroyed them 10 times over, yet they had kept fighting. With the relentless determination of machines, General Rexstar, its own flagship barely functional, sent a final transmission before retreating. "This is not over, humans. The Krex Dominion will remember what happened here." Admiral Park watched the alien ships disappear into hyperspace and felt no satisfaction in the victory. Too many good people had died today, both human and alien. But he also knew that sometimes violence was the only language that bullies understood. The Voltai research vessel Dr. Hanvel was already working on the most important scientific paper of his career. He had recorded everything that had happened during the battle, from the human ship's incredible durability to their crews' willingness to sacrifice themselves for strangers. Solara began transmitting all our data to the Voltai Collective immediately. Hanvel ordered his research assistant. "The entire galaxy needs to know about this." The footage that Dr. Hanvel sent out showed something that had never been seen before in galactic history. It showed warriors from a death world risking their lives not for conquest or profit, but simply because it was the right thing to do. The images of human ships placing themselves between the Krex weapons and the helpless research vessel spread across civilized space faster than any news had ever traveled. Within hours, the story was being broadcast on thousands of worlds. Alien species that had never heard of humanity suddenly found themselves watching humans fight against impossible odds to protect people they had never met. The galaxy had seen plenty of conquerors and traitors, but they had never seen guardians. Like this, 3 days after the battle, Admiral Park received a formal transmission from the Voltai High Council. The message was delivered by their most senior diplomat, and it carried the weight of an entire civilization's gratitude. "Admiral Park, on behalf of the Voltai Collective, I wish to extend our eternal thanks for your sacrifice," the diplomat said, her crystalline features glowing with emotion. "We formally request a defensive alliance between our peoples. In exchange for your protection, we offer to share our scientific knowledge and provide whatever assistance we can." Park read through the alliance terms carefully. The Voltai were offering humanity access to technology that was centuries ahead of anything Earth had developed. Their research into energy manipulation, faster than light travel, and medical science could revolutionize human civilization. But what impressed Park most was that the aliens were not just offering technology, they were offering friendship with a species that had never known war, never conquered anyone, and had spent thousands of years trying to make the galaxy a better place through scientific discovery. "Sir," Commander Lee approached with a stack of transmission logs that seemed to grow larger every hour. "We are receiving similar requests from 17 other species so far. Word is spreading throughout the galaxy that Earth will protect those who need protection." Park looked through the messages, amazed by what he was reading. The Zenth Federation, a peaceful trading alliance, wanted human protection for their merchant ships. The Quinn Republic was offering to share their agricultural technology in exchange for security guarantees. Even species that humanity had never contacted were reaching out, having heard about what happened at the battle. "It seems we have accidentally started something," Park said to Lee, looking out at the stars through the bridge viewport. "For 37 years, we tried to stay isolated and avoid getting involved in galactic politics. And now, sir," smiled, thinking about the human crews who had fought so bravely to save strangers. "Now it looks like we are going to be very busy. The galaxy is full of species that just want to live in peace, and apparently they think we are the ones who can help them do it." Commander Lee nodded, understanding the weight of what her admiral was saying. Humanity had found its role in the galactic community not as the strongest or the smartest species, but as the ones willing to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. The stars that had once seemed so distant and cold now felt like a neighborhood that needed protecting, and humanity was ready to stand guard.